That's right. Let's find a solution. That's why people that cry all the time don't come to me. Because I ain't gonna sit there.
T-Rock. We live on Facebook. Handle that. Wow.
Somebody told me I was too cautious and never came back.
Let me go to Dr.Ben.
She is. She told me I live in that negativity. 3 months in energy. I said, you know, I wonder how your husband and your son receive you. Because you have a lot of negative energy around your aura. She was like, you telling me stuff I already know about me. So what happened? Nothing. I have owls. They follow all the time. I'm sitting and stewing in it.
Right. Chill. Light that up. Spark it up like a big joint. All right. So what I want to do, brothers and sisters, is read a little bit about Dr.Ben. I have a personal testimonial to the ancestor. I actually met him as a freshman in Millersville University, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Black Consciousness Conference, Howard University. First time I heard of him, he was the last speaker of the day. I went to the workshop and I was blown away. He had dropped knowledge I never heard of in my life. Automatically, I was drawn to him. I tried to buy every book that he wrote. The first full-length book that I read of a decent length was his Black Man of the Nile. This brother was probably the most prolific Egyptologist, anthropologist, Pan-Africanist. He wrote books. I don't even know how many books the man had wrote. 49 books. I mean, you name it. Africa's Gift to Egypt. Africa's Gift to America. I mean, you just name it. Every book you can think of. Religion, culture, spirituality. That's what Dr.Ben meant to me. I met him twice, and what I loved about him so much was not only was he one of the first ones to start all these trips that we take to Africa. He's one of the first ones to do that, but he was so selfless with his scholarship, so selfless. He did it from the heart, not for money. He did it from the heart, not to be known or seen or adored or anything like that. And this brother gave us a whole lot. Dr.Ben was born December 31st, 1918. He died March 19th, 2015. He was an American writer and historian, considered to be one of the most prominent African-centered scholars, while most mainstream scholars, white folks, didn't like him because he was unapologetically African. He was a Garveyite, and he was a member of the New York City UNIA. He also was one of Malcolm X's secret advisors. A lot of that information that Malcolm used to give to the world, he got it from Dr.Ben and Dr. Clark. Okay? Notable awards, honorary doctoral degree, Sojourner at Douglas College, but he was a doctor himself. He was also trained as an attorney and a historian. Okay, multiple degrees. Early life, born in Ethiopia to a Puerto Rican Jewish mother.
What?
And an Ethiopian Jewish father. I'm going to change that to a Puerto Rican Hebrew mother and an Ethiopian Hebrew father. Other sources stated he was probably Puerto Rican, but claimed to be of Ethiopian Jewish extraction. Now that's ridiculous, because anybody who ever seen Dr.Ben, he's unmistakably black. But just like Arthur Schomburg, Puerto Rican ancestry, but knew that they was African. But unlike Arthur Schomburg, Dr.Ben looked unapologetically African, whereas Arthur Schomburg looks like what we would call a modern day Puerto Rican. Dr.Ben's academic record, wait a minute. I'm not gonna read some of this because they starting to hate, as they do. So, Ashe, we want to come and pour libation to our great ancestor, Dr. Yusuf Ben Yakinen. a man that embodies the word research, mastery, scholarship, perfection, Pan-Africanism, dedication, to be unapologetically African, to serve the community. As you guys know, 2 weeks ago, they dedicated a street, Dr. Ben Yakinen Way, a few blocks from the Apollo, which we will visit today. So, Omi tutu ona tutu ile tutu geri nimbo, Olodumare jaba kabagbo iku, Olowati mebelese Olodumare iba arati erum. We call on Almighty God to bless us and all the divine citizens of heaven that sit at the feet of God, ancestors at one feet, Orisha, Loa, Obutum, Netters at the other feet, to be with us. We call on all the Orishas to come. Ibashe Eshu, Ibashe Shango, Ibashe Ogun, Ibashe Yemojai, Ibashe Oya, Ibashe Obatala, Ibashe Olokun, Ibashe Abeji, Ibashe Ache, Ibashe Ibeji, Ibashe Agayu, Ibashe Ochozi, Ibashe, all the spirits. We call on our ancestors of the four roads. We always call on our ancestors first. Father Belly, my Selah, my Jenny, my Betsy, Grandpa Isaac, Grandma Young Betsy, Grandpa Stephen, Grandma Caroline, Grandpa George, Grandma Annie, Grandma Caroline, Grandma Vivian, Grandpa Cicero, Grandma Ida, Grandpa James, Uncle Clifford, Cousin Shanika, Mama Wayman, Papa Wayman, Charles Henry, Remy Francis Wayman, Bishop Alexander Wayman, Uncle Fred, I'm Annie, Cousin Louis, Charles Rosetta, Fred Jr., Shay, Grandma Gertrude, Grandpa Charlie, Grandma Curly, Robert Shumack Jr., Robert Shumack Sr., Holliger, David Pratt, Isaac Johnson, Eileen Johnson, William Thomas Tillman, Uncle Billy, Uncle Eric, Uncle Dennis, Cousin Nancy, Dr. King, OBM, Big Brother Clifford, Ancestors Borealis, Nat Turner, Marcus Messiah Garvey, Ashe. We call on Dr. Ben to say thank you. We call on Dr. Ben to come and pay tribute to you. We come to Dr. Ben to come and say thank you for all that you've done to come with us as we embark on our 400-year journey here in the United States as African people. We call on our great ancestor to rise up with us, to give us the knowledge, the scholarship, the dedication, to give us the character, the heart, and the Pan-African spirit that we had. Dr. Ben, we say thank you. We shall never forget you. We apologize on behalf of the entire global African community that has benefited from your scholarship, your trips to Africa, your work in the community. We say we are so sorry that you still don't have a faceplate on your grave. That is not a stain, excuse me, on the record of your family. That is a stain on the record of the Black conscious community, elders as well as youth. It is our job to make sure that you are properly memorialized, and 4 years after your burial, it makes no sense for you not to have a plaque on your grave. So I'm going to do whatever I can to reach out to your family, because 4 years has been too long to give you a proper plaque, proper recognition. But we just want to say thank you, Baba. Thank you for the work, thank you for the books, thank you for the scholarship, thank you for the examples. I only met you twice, never had a chance to have that sit down, but I can say here today that I am an ideological student and descendant of the late great Dr. Ben Yakinen, fellow Garveyite and Pan-Africanist. Ashe?
Ashe. Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe.
All right, so now we got to find Brother Khalid. Let me get those forms, Troy. You can keep rolling on that. So that's Dr. Ben. Now we want to go to Khalid Abdul Muhammad, 6317. You face this way. All right, let's go find Khalid Abdul Muhammad. We hunting, brothers and sisters. Ifa Tunde University, live at Ferncliff Cemetery, coming to pay respects to the great ancestors as we cross over into the beginning of our 5th century in America, which will start on August the 21st of 2019. And we want to make sure we take our ancestors with us. So we visited all of our great ancestors today. Wow, look at that. Shakur. I was about to say, let me find out Pot got a grade. All right. 6317. That's 59. So we coming close. We're coming close to the late great Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. 6'3", that's 6'4". 6317. 6317. What we got? Wait, you saying 6? That's 5, ain't it? No, you're right. 6317.
So far down here. I mean up.
Okay, check that out. 6317.
I think it's right here. Here we go. We're right here. Stop.
You got him? All right. The Honorable Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. Deanna, grab them for me. Pull out another bottle of liquor. Sheila, make sure you come put some sage in there, just a little bit. Ashe, ashe, ashe. To the late, great Dr. Khalid Abdul-Muhammad, founder of the New Black Panther Party. I don't even want to read what they got on here because it always got some hate. Born January the 12th of 1948. He died February the 17th, 2001, which is almost to the day that Brother Malcolm was murdered. Right? February 21st, 4 days before Brother Malcolm. Dr. Khalid Abdul-Muhammad, just like Dr. Yusuf bin Yaqanan, personifies what we consider the unapologetically African scholar, the unapologetically African activist. Dr.Ben had a real PhD. Dr. Khalid Abdul-Muhammad had a real PhD. I do not believe in glamorizing and upholding European degrees. I have a doctorate myself, but I do think that we have to make a distinction between scholars who did the work, went through the university and earned the paper the right way, as opposed to what we see in the black conscious community, where any Negro who regurgitates another scholar's information can call himself a doctor. So, you know, I want it to be known that he was a real doctor, and what some of you may not know is this brother was actually educated for a part of his time at Harvard University. Harvard. Dr. Khalid Abdul-Muhammad was a student at Harvard University. He spent about a year or two at Harvard University. So we're dealing with a brother who could have took his scholarship, they became a black bourgeoisie. We're dealing with a brother who could have took his scholarship, they became an FBI agent, a CIA agent, but instead he used his information and his power and his energy to motivate and uplift African people. And I think it's also very prophetic that he transitioned approximately around the same time that the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey and the Honorable Booker T. Washington died. They all died around 53 years old. It's amazing how we lost those three greats around 53 years old. Now, allegedly, they say he died of a brain aneurysm, but there's a lot of evidence to suggest that this brother may have, in fact, been murdered. But what I love the most about Dr. Khalid Abdul-Muhammad, he never compromised his position. The other thing that stands out about him for me is just like the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, he was a chocolate leader. Okay, and I would probably argue that he was the first significant chocolate leader we had since Marcus Garvey. Not to draw distinctions on skin color. Why am I saying chocolate? I'm only saying that to say that 99% of all leaders that we've ever had in America could pass the brown paper bag test. And I think that's because black people are not really comfortable accepting chocolate leadership. And I think Dr. Khalid is that chocolate leader. He's a break from the tradition, but I also would argue that he probably would have been more successful and more supportive had he been light-skinned. That's just the reality of the issue that we have as a people. So we expose light-skin supremacy, we expose dark-skin supremacy, but we do not practice it. All Africans are of one race, one people, one family. The first color on the flag is red because it is the blood that makes you an African, not the amount of pigmentation in your skin. So Dr. Khalid, we just want to come today, great ancestors, to say thank you for your works. We will never forget you. It's a shame that I never had a chance to meet you. I've spoken so many times at the different ceremonies held here in New York City by Queen Mother Ya Ashanti Wa, who once walked with you, New Black Panther Party. She's still holding the guard strong, and I've spoken so often in the memory of Dr. Khalid Abdul-Muhammad, but I never had a chance to actually meet the man. I wish I would have done so, but I thank you. I know you from a distance. I know you from film. I know you from the writings. I know you from that Phil Donahue interview, which is probably one of the greatest interviews ever conducted, where you handle business like no other black man has ever handled business. So we just want to say thank you for being unapologetic. Thank you for being dedicated. Thank you for making the sacrifice, dying at a young age when you had all the credentials one could possibly want to live a comfortable life under white supremacy. You chose the latter. You chose to stand up and fight for African people. And Dr. Khalid Abdul-Muhammad, we say thank you from the bottom of our heart for every black boy, every black girl, every black man. Thank you for being an example to me of what a real black man is supposed to be about. Thank you for being an example to all black men, particularly within the conscious and revolutionary black Pan-African nationalist movement. Thank you for being that example that we need to be. Had you lived, I can only imagine what great things you would have done for us. Had you lived, I can only imagine what we could have done together, Baba. But although you are now in spirit, You are freed up by Olodumare, Lord God Supreme of the universe, to help us even more. So we're calling on your spirit, just like we call on the spirit of Dr. Yusuf Ben Yakinen to rise up, raise up, and accompany us as a people as we continue this fight for African liberation. 400 years, Dr. Khalid, has been too long. 400 years has been way too long. It's time for us to turn the corner and turn the page in the struggle and in the history of African people in America. It is time for a victory, sir. Thank you for your works. Thank you for your efforts. Thank you for your writings. Thank you for your travels. Thank you, Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, when those white devils dragged our brother James Byrd in Jasper, Texas, to the point where he was dismembered, when they tied him to the back of a pickup truck and drugged that brother till his body parts was off of his body. It was only Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. It was only Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad and the new Black Panther Party that went to Jasper, Texas to secure the safety of all of the other black men, women, and children who were living there. No other black organization went down there to make sure our people were safe. And Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad and the new Black Panther Party went down there armed with guns, ready to take on the Klan. And if y'all remember the history, they almost got into a big fight with the Ku Klux Klan. They showed up together, and Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad would not backtrack. What other black leader do you know would have done that? He did that for African people. Thank you, Dr. Khalid. May your memory live forever, and may we all here of Ifa Tunde University, may we all keep your memory alive forever. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Long live Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. Long live Dr. Yusuf Ben Yakinen. Deanna, let me see that paper. The ancestors are with us today. So then, we have to, that's the big building. I believe that's the building we're paused. So now we're going to, Aaliyah is inside. Let me see, as he showed me. Aaliyah's body is actually in the inside of a building. She's in that building right there. So we go up the road and turn left. You know what? I think she's in that building we're looking at. You know what? Let's walk on over there and see. Walk on over here and see. The ancestors. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, Garveyite. Dr. Yusuf Ben Yakinen, Garveyite. We're going to see Paul Robeson. He was a friend of the Honorable Marcus Garvey, even though Mr. Garvey criticized him for Emperor Jones movie. Make sure y'all take y'all pictures at the faceplate if y'all want to. Get somebody to snap you while you're down if y'all want that. Mausoleum, yeah. She's in here. But you know what? Let's go up here first, y'all. Let's go up here first. You good, princess? All right. We're going to do James Baldwin and Paul Robeson. Knock them out. They are right over here. Now I gotta find it. Let me see. We're looking for Baldwin and Robeson. Here we go. Here we go. We got one. Who is this? This is one of the greatest black men who ever lived.
Yes.
This is one of the greatest black men who ever lived right here. He was a Renaissance man. What was he, a three-time All-American at Rutgers University? He was a saxophone player, actor, author, orator. He had the most beautiful voice. You can listen to Paul Robeson talk. He had that deep Barry White voice. Let me give y'all some history. Paul Robeson. This man was bad. He died in Philly. Next time you're in Philly, you got to visit the Paul Robeson house. All right. Paul Leroy Robeson, April 9th, 1898 to January 23rd, 1976. American bass baritone concert artist, stage and film actor who became famous for his cultural accomplishments and for his political activism. Educated at Rutgers and Columbia. He was also a star athlete. Studied Swahili at the School of Oriental and African Studies in London, 1934. Okay, so he would have been in London probably around the same time that Garvey, because remember Garvey went back to London in 35. His political activities began with his involvement with the unemployed workers and anti-imperialist students with whom he met in Britain, continued with support for the Loyalist cause in the Spanish Civil War and his opposition to fascism. In the United States, he became active in the civil rights movement and other social justice campaigns. His sympathies for the Soviet Union and for communism. He wasn't, I believe he was a member of the American Communist Party for a while. Okay, he was friends with W.E.B. Du Bois. They was both members of the communist movement for a while. And his criticism of the United States government and its foreign policies caused him to be blacklisted. They took his passport for a while because he openly supported the communist movement. In 1915, Paul Robeson won an academic scholarship to Rutgers, where he was twice named a consensus All-American and was the class valedictorian. This is 1915 at Rutgers, a white racist college. He was not only, okay, twice a consensus All-American athlete, he was valedictorian at the same time of a white racist college.
They got a building named after him.
Almost 80 years later, he was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. He had a law degree from Columbia Law School. Played in the National Football League. Let me correct that. He got his law degree from Columbia while playing in the NFL.
Oh, wow.
At Columbia, he sang and acted in the off-campus productions. After graduating, he became a figure of the Harlem Renaissance. Look at that. He was one of the Harlem Renaissance figures that, as you know, Marcus Garvey helped motivate. He played in the Emperor Jones and All God's Children Got Wings, and of course, Mr. Garvey thought some of the roles was a little demeaning, but nonetheless, not all of his roles were. Between 1925 and 1961, he recorded and released 276 different songs, most of which were recorded several times. The first of these were Negro spirituals called Still Away. Back with Were You There in 1925, Paul Robeson recorded repertoire. His recording repertoire spanned many styles, including Americana, popular standards, classical music, European folk song, political song, poetry, and spoken excerpts. He performed in Britain in a touring melodrama called Voodoo in 1922. Emperor Jones, 25. Scored a major success in the London premiere of Showboat, 1928. Y'all remember Showboat with the little tattoo? Y'all remember the movie Showboat on the ship? All right, y'all remember that? Well, he was on Showboat. He came on Showboat 28. Settled in London with his wife, Eslanda. I pray she was black.
She right here.
While she is? And that's his wife right there. Was she black? Let me check real fast.
With that little behind head. So.
That's Londa.
Yeah, she black. I can tell by the hair. Good job,
You know
Paul.
what?
Okay. While continuing to establish himself as a concert artist, Paul Robeson also starred in the London production of Othello, the Shakespeare play, the first of 3 productions of the play over the course of his career. He also gained attention in the film production of Showboat and Sanders of the River, Proud Valley, 1935-1940. During this period, Paul Robeson became attuned to the suffering of people of other culture, notably the British working class and the colonized people of the British Empire. He advocated for Republican forces during the Spanish Civil War, became active in the Council of African Affairs. Returned to the United States in 1939. During World War II, Paul Robeson supported the American and Allied war effort. His history of supporting civil rights causes and pro-Soviet policies brought scrutiny from the FBI. After the war ended, the organization he belonged to was placed on the Attorney General's list of subversive organizations. Paul Robeson was investigated during the age of McCarthyism. Due to his decision not to recant his public advocacy, he was denied a passport by the United States U.S. State Department. And remember, he traveled the world, so not having a passport really sabotaged his work. His income consequently plummeted. He moved to Harlem, and from 1950 to 55 published a periodical called Freedom, which was critical of the United States. His right to travel was eventually restored as a result of the 1958 Supreme Court decision Kent versus Dulles. In the 1960s, he retired and lived the remaining years of his life privately in Philadelphia. He was 6'3", 219 pounds. High school, Somerville, New Jersey. College, Rutgers in Columbia. Played with the Akron Pros and the Milwaukee Badgers. Consensus All-American 1917 and 1918. Paul Robeson. We are here to say thank you, Brother Paul Robeson, ancestor, for the work you did, speaking up for us, working with the Honorable Marcus Garvey, and your own separate work, speaking out against injustice, imperialism, white supremacy. We thank you for marrying a black woman, thank God. We thank you for all the works that you did on behalf of us, fighting for black people, and the intellectual example that you set for us as a people, being not only an athlete, but a valedictorian, being not only an entertainer, but a law school graduate, an attorney. He was a master of the entertainment and the intellectual. That's what I love about it. One of the greatest singers we had, one of the greatest writers we had, one of the greatest actors we had, but at the same time, I'm a lawyer. See that? At the same time, I'm a scholar. And that's what I liked about him. They call Paul Robeson a Renaissance man because this brother had over 12 different careers. I mean, recorded over 276 songs and at the same time fighting to make the world safe for African people. Paul Robeson, we say thank you, Baba. May you help us as we fight to bring justice to our people. We understand that our ancestors, our Agun, our divine, spiritual departed ones who sit at the feet of Almighty God, are able to help us in a way that we can help each other in the flesh. So we call on you, brother, to raise up. We know that you've been in the ground for over 40 years, but we want you to know that your spirit, your memory, your sacrifice, your works are alive and well with us. Paul Robeson, walk with us. Paul Robeson, fight with us. Paul Robeson, think with us. Paul Robeson, struggle with us. Paul Robeson, come into our dreams, come into our visions, give us insights, give us intuitions, tap into our Ori, speak with the ancestors of our own bloodlines. Bring all the ancestors sleeping at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, the world's largest cemetery. Wake them up and tell them we got work to do. Go to the Indian Ocean and wake up those African ancestors and tell them we got work to do. Go to all the 7 seas of the world and wake up the ancestors and let them know that we got work to do. 400 years, and we don't want it to be 500 years, and we don't want it to be 401 years. So Paul Robeson come with Dr. Khalid Abdul-Muhammad, and Paul Robeson come with Dr. Yusuf bin Yaqanan, and Paul Robeson come with Malcolm X, and with Betty Shabazz, and with James Baldwin. Come with all of the great African ancestors. Come with Marcus Garvey. Come with Jean-Jacques Dessalines. Come with Macandal. Come with Toussaint L'Ouverture. Come with Denmark Vesey, Gabriel Prosser. Come with Nat Turner, William Well Brown. Come with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Come with Fred Hampton. Come with Huey P. Newton. Come with all of our African ancestors, men and women. Come with Ida B. Wells. Come with Fannie Lou Hamer. Come with Mama Nanny. Come with Queen Nzinga. Come with Yah Ashanti Wa. Bring them all with you, Baba Paul. Bring them all with you. Raise them up because the time is now. August 21st, 2019, we go into our next century, the 5th century, and we want to go into it strong. We want to eliminate white supremacy, and we want to bring black African glory. We want to bring black African glory. We want to bring black supremacy. Not black skin supremacy, but the supremacy of African people over all things African. We have no desire to rule white folks. We have no desire to rule Chinese. We have no desire to rule Mexicans. We have no desire to rule East Indians. We have no desire to rule nobody, but we must be supreme over ourselves, and that's why we say black supremacy. Thank you, ancestor. Ashe, 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 Ashe. We call on Mama Oya, the Orisha of the cemeteries, to bless these libations today. We call on Mama Oya to bless everyone here and bless all the ancestors here, the ones we're visiting and the ones we may not even know of. Bless us all with the end of negative cycles, and bless us all with the blowing in of the beginning of new positive cycles. Mama Oya, as we go into this next century, our 5th century, beginning August the 21st of 2019, let us go in a whirlwind of positive energy, a whirlwind of constructive energy, a whirlwind of divine blessings. Mama Oya, bless us spiritually, bless us financially, bless us intellectually, socially, morally, physically, in terms of our health and our diet and the health of our community, because you are indeed the Orisha of change. So bring us some good fortune and some good change. And Mama Oya, swing your sword, Mama. Swing your sword and slice the proverbial and material heads off of our enemies. If they can't support African redemption, take them on out of here, Mama Oya. Let them breathe their last breath, take it on back, put them in the ground, and let us keep on working. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Now we gotta find James Baldwin, y'all. I got a funny feeling. Let me grab that from you, Sister Sheila. Thank you. Let me get that. We gotta find Baldwin. I need some of y'all to go that way. I'm gonna go this way.
Oh, these ones
I ain't got Baldwin number, but he right around here. Robeson is here. Baldwin is either over there or over here.
What's the number on it, Doc? If you don't have the number. Oh, you don't have it?
I want to say, well, if you further, found and where we at? That's the ancestors. That's the ancestors. We out here paying respect to the ancestors, Ifa Tunde University. You feel me? We going into our quadricentennial 400 years of fighting against genocide, racism, miseducation, mass incarceration, and we need all the ancestral power that we can get because God empowered the ancestors to help their living relatives, and we calling on all of our ancestors to wake up, stand up, get up, and fight with us as we go into this quadricentennial because we're going to start off the next century with success and redemption and good power. Okay? We're not going to start off the 5th century the way we started off the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. We're going into this victorious. All right? We got Baldwin. All right. James Baldwin was a bad man, boy. He gonna get some rum. This was a bad man right here. You talk about the Harlem Renaissance. This brother did it. And he was such a strong intellectual mind and so uncompromising.
Yes, he was.
James Baldwin, that's why we need FDMG.
Okay.
Because our kids gonna learn them all. Not, we such victims of the present. We only know what happened in the last, 30 years, 40 years. And
30 minutes.
there you go. Let's see what they said about the great ancestor. James Baldwin was a Leo. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. I knew it. August the 2nd, 1924, December the 1st, 1987. American novelist, playwright, activist, his essays as collected in Notes of a Native Son. Remember that? Yes. Notes of a Native Son, 1955. Explore intricacies of racial, sexual, and class distinctions in Western society, most notably in the mid-20th century. Some of his essays are book length, including The Fire Next Time, 1963, No Name in the Street, 1972, and The Devil Finds Work, 1976. An unfinished manuscript called Remember This House was expanded and adapted for cinema as the Academy Award nominated documentary film, I Am Not Your Negro. Did y'all see that? I think it's still on Netflix. You need to watch it. Okay, one of his novels, If Beale Street Could Talk, was adapted into an Academy Award-winning dramatic film, 2018. What's the sister who won best? She won best actor at the Emmys. Regina King starred in that. He lived in Manhattan. His novels and plays fictionalize fundamental personal questions and dilemmas amid complex social and psychological pressures, thwarting the inequitable integration of not only African Americans but also gay and bisexual men. Allegedly, he was homosexual, while depicting some internalized obstacles to such individuals' quest for acceptance. Such dynamics are prominent in his second novel, Giovanni's Room, written in 1956. James Baldwin, born August the 2nd, his mother, Emma Jones, left his biological father because of drug abuse. She moved to Harlem, where James Baldwin was born in Harlem Hospital, New York. His mother married a Baptist preacher, David Baldwin, with whom she had 8 children, born between 27 and 43. Her husband had one son from a previous marriage who was 9 years older than James. I hope I'm wrong when I say this, but I'm hoping there wasn't no molestation in the house, and that's what triggered his homosexuality. The family was poor. Baldwin's stepfather whom in essays he referred to as his father treated him more harshly than his other children. What did I say? When black boys get psychologically emasculated by their fathers, they can feel incapable of being a man, and it can trigger thoughts of homosexuality. His intelligence combined with the persecution by his stepfather caused him to spend much of his time alone in the library. By the time Baldwin reached adolescence, he had discovered his passion for writing. His educators deemed him gifted, and in 1937, at the age of 13, he wrote his first article entitled Harlem, Then and Now, which was published in his school's magazine, The Douglas Pilot. James Baldwin spent much time caring for his several young brothers and sisters. At the age of 10, he was teased and abused by 2 New York City police officers. At the age of 10, he was teased and abused by 2 New York police officers, an instance of racist harassment by the New York PD that he would experience again as a teenager and document in his essay. His stepfather died of tuberculosis in the summer of '43 on the day his last child was born, just before Baldwin turned 19. The day of the funeral was Baldwin's 19th birthday and the day of the Harlem riots of 1943, which was portrayed at the beginning of his essay, Notes of a Native Son. Education. Growing up in Harlem, he faced many obstacles, one of which was his education. I knew I was black, but I also knew I was smart. I didn't know how I would use my mind, or even if I could, but that was the only thing I had to use, he said. Baldwin attended Public School 24 on 128th Street between 5th and Madison Avenue in Harlem, where he wrote the school song, which was used until the school closed. As recounted in Notes of a Native Son, when he was 10 and a half, he wrote a play that was directed by a teacher at his school. Seeing his talent and potential, she offered to take him to real plays. This caused some backlash from Baldwin's stepfather because the teacher was white. His uncertainty was ultimately overruled by Baldwin's mother, who said that it would not be very nice to let such a kind woman make the trip for nothing. When his teacher came to pick him up, James Baldwin noticed that his stepfather was filled with disgust. Baldwin later realized that this encounter was an unprecedented and frightening situation for his parents. He said it was clear during a brief interview in our living room that my father was agreeing very much against his will, and that he would have refused permission if he had dared. The fact that he did not dare caused me to despise him. I had no way of knowing that he was facing in that living room a wholly unprecedented and frightening situation. His middle school years were spent at Frederick Douglass Junior High, where he was influenced by another poet, County Cullen, a leading figure in the Harlem Renaissance, and was encouraged by his math teacher to serve as editor of the school newspaper, the Douglas Pilot, named after Frederick Douglass. He then went on to DeWitt High School. Along with Richard Avedon, Baldwin worked on the school magazine. During his teenage years, he followed his stepfather's shadow into religious life. Ultimately, he left the church because his father's expectation was that he become a preacher. James Baldwin once visited the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, leader of the Nation of Islam, who inquired about his religious beliefs. He told the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, "I left the church 20 years ago, and I haven't joined anything since." Elijah Muhammad said, "And what are you now?" James Baldwin said, "Now, I'm nothing. I'm a writer, and I like doing things by myself." So basically he said, "I'm not joining." Okay? His church experience significantly shaped his worldview. Baldwin reflected that being in the pulpit was like working in the theater. "I was behind the scenes and know how the illusion was worked." Baldwin accused Christianity of reinforcing the system of American slavery by P-A-L-L-I-A-T-I-N-G, palliating the pains of oppression and delaying salvation until a promised afterlife. Okay, Baldwin praised religion, however, for inspiring some American blacks to defy oppression. He once wrote, "If the concept of God has any use, it is to make us larger, freer, and more loving. If God can't do that, it's time we got rid of him." When he was 15, his high school running buddy skipped school one day, and in Greenwich Village, met a painter. The painter gave Baldwin Delaney's address and suggested paying him a visit. Baldwin, who worked at the time after school in a sweatshop on Canal Street, visited Delaney at 181 Green Street. Delaney became a mentor to Baldwin under his influence. Immigration. He realized he was gay. 1948, New Jersey, he walked into a restaurant where he knew he would be denied service. When the waitress explained that African Americans were not served there, Baldwin threw a glass of water at her,
I hear that.
which shattered against the mirror. Disillusioned by American prejudice, he left the United States at the age of 24 and moved to Paris. He He wanted to distance himself from American prejudice and see himself in his writing outside of African American context. He did not want to be read as merely a Negro or just a Negro writer. He hoped to come to terms with his sexual ambivalence and escape the homelessness that many young African American men like himself succumbed to in New York. In Paris, he was soon involved in the cultural radicalism of the left flank. He started to publish his work in literary anthologies. He lived in France for most of his later life. He also spent time in Switzerland and Turkey. During his lifetime, as well as since his death, he was seen not only as an influential African American writer, but as an influential immigrant writer.
Who's Birdies?
Say that again.
Birdies or Birdis?
Ah, James Baldwin and Burtis. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. For a child, did he marry at some point?
I don't know. Somebody look up Birdis.
Maybe it's his mother.
19.
Look up Burtis Baldwin and see who that is. 1900.
Yeah.
That person was 24 years older than him. Probably his mother. Yeah.
How his mother kept her Baldwin name, or did he take his stepfather's name?
That's a good.
His mother's
The
name
mom
was
probably
Bird.
took the stepfather's name.
Mother.
That's his mommy Baldwin. Wow.
Wow.
Makes sense.
December 1st, 1987, he died of stomach cancer in France. He was buried here.
Stomach cancer.
Mal took care of Baldwin on his deathbed. Been friends with Baldwin from the early 70s because Baldwin would buy him drinks at the cafe. I think this was his partner. He recalled talking to Baldwin about racism in Alabama with the author shortly before his death. In one conversation, Noel told Baldwin that through your books you liberated me from my guilt about being so bigoted, coming from Alabama and being homosexual. At the time of his death, James Baldwin, he had an unfinished manuscript called Remember This House, a memoir of his personal recollections of civil rights leader Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King. Rest in peace. Baba James Baldwin, we're here to say thank you for the works that you did for us, sir, for being so unapologetic, for being so critical of the way the United States government and the American social order treated black people. We thank you, sir, for your unapologetically African stance. Although you was not a Pan-Africanist per se, you was unapologetically a black man, and I can thank you for that. I love to watch you. You give me inspiration when I watch you to just keep on staying strong, keep on going forward. I just started watching him recently, y'all, within the last year, and I have been so overwhelmed with the degree of his assessment and his piercing intellectual analysis. James Baldwin's intellectual analysis rival Malcolm's. That's how deep and insightful he was. In fact, he may have inspired Malcolm to some extent, because I think James Baldwin, for the time in which he lived, may have been the greatest intellectual thinker that we had. When you watch this man's interviews, you read his writings, he's able to cut through the racial reality and cut through racism and cut through the social, economic, political, and psychological predicaments of black people like very few people I've ever seen or read. This man was ahead of his time. Thank you for the books. We probably all need to read them books. It's probably one of the books we need to read as we go forward into the second part of the class, because I've never read none of his books, although I got a lot of them. So it's time to start reading them. Thank you for being an activist. Thank you for speaking out for African people. We calling your mama Birdis, Queen Mother Baldwin. Thank you for raising this boy, this man. Thank you for making this king, this soldier, this general. Thank you to both of you. James Baldwin, Mama Birdis, we call on you with all of our other ancestors to rise up and accompany us as we fight for the liberation, redemption, and salvation of African people here, there, and everywhere. Because as Pan-Africanists, we believe in the liberation of the whole family, not just those who live in North America with us. Brother, give us your intellect. Give us your piercing intellectual assessment. Give us your cognitive discourse. Give us your eloquent research strategies. Give us your most powerful ability to be able to interpret and then explain the things that you see going on around you. Ashe. James Baldwin, be with us, fight with us, bring the ancestors with us. We want you to come with Paul Robeson, come with Dr. Khalid Abdul-Muhammad, come with Dr. Yusuf Ben Yakinen, come with Martin Delaney, come with Henry Highland Garnett, come with Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, come with Patrice Lumumba, come with Steve Biko, come with Robert Sobukwe, come with Amilcar Cabral. You understand? Come with the Black Panther Party, come with the Honorable Marcus Garvey, Amy Jakes Garvey, Amy Ashwood Garvey, come with William Ferris, come with all of the freedom fighters of the last 4 centuries, the ones that came through the water, the ancestors laying at the bottom of the oceans and the seas, the ones that died in Africa. Get up, ancestor, and come fight with us. Ashe. 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 We call on Getty Nimbo, the ancestor, excuse me, the Orisha, the divine energy that guards the cemeteries, that stands at the front of the gates through which we must cross into Mama Oya Cemetery, Getty Nimbo, Eshu of the cemetery. Open up the ancestors to talk with us. Open up the gates so they can communicate with us. Open up the pathway so they can walk and march and communicate with us. Getty Nimbo, we call on you, Ashe, to bless us with divine Ashe, and bless the communication channel, because you are the Orisha of communication. Bless the communication channel between us and our ancestors. And with Mama Oya, as we are in the cemetery, we ask you, just as we ask of Eshu, of Getty Nimbo, Mama Oya, bless us to communicate with our ancestors. Send the ancestors with us. Eshu and Oya, bless the ancestors to fight with us. Bless us to communicate with them. Bless us to finish their works. Ashe.
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 All right.
Her first name was Emma.
The mom?
Yeah.
So who was Burtis?
It says Burtis too.
Her
And his mother, Emma Burtis.
yeah, with
Okay,
Maya.
so Burtis,
Probably her nickname.
mom's maiden name, and she may have gave the kids the stepfather's name. I'm thinking. Good point there. Good point. So we're gonna go into the mausoleum too, Lee.
His not interview, but his talk with Nikki Giovanni that they did when it was playing out the male-female relationship and the struggle that the black man and the black women go through.
Nah, I haven't saw
Oh, you gotta watch it.
Wow.
The Nikki Giovanni taught a lot. She's been teaching.
Wow. Wow.
I did see that.
You saw
It was just them two in the room, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Or you just want to spill the water on it?
Since we're leaving, I don't want anybody to say we're
Yeah.
responsible for a fire.
Yeah. Handle that. So how do we get in here? That look like the front? Yeah. It's amazing so many of them in here, ain't?
Mm-hmm.
Star-studded. Subsection CC. Subsection CC. Wow. How do we? Okay. Unit 4, 4C. Her number is 253, and she's in 4C. Do me a favor. Look down on those and see what numbers or what letters. She's 253, and she's in 4C. You know what we're going to have to do? We're going to have to split up until we find them. On one of them, she's downstairs. Oh, and by the way, her last name is Halton. H-A-U-G-H.